Welcome to Coaching in the Shark Tank, the podcast where we explore what it truly takes to develop athletes the right way. I'm your host, Coach Eddie, and each week I sit down with coaches, directors, and leaders in youth sports to break down the habits, environments, and mindsets that help players grow. Whether you're a new coach, a seasoned veteran, or an athlete looking to level up, this is your place to learn, improve, and build the complete player. Today with me, I have a guest coach who's been involved in the tennis industry for over 20 years now, Coach Phil.
Hello. It's good to be here, Eddie.
All right. Thanks for coming on today. Do you think you could start with just giving us a little bit of background into who you are and how you got involved with tennis?
I got involved with tennis. I think I was about 11 years old, around in there. There was a tennis match on TV. It was a WCT final between Ken Rosewall and Rod Laver. And I saw that. I watched that whole thing. And I thought, that looks like fun. There was an old tennis racket at the house. And I went out side of the house and I started hitting the ball against the house. And was determined that I could beat the house. But I would spend hours standing out there hitting the ball against the house. And I had a great time just doing that. And I got to a point where I felt like somebody needed to teach me something. And I got in with a coach named Ian Crookenden. He had won the NCAA championships with Arthur Ashe. They played for UCLA. And then later, Ian went on to coach the New Zealand Davis Cup team. I picked up with a guy that had replaced him named Fred Rollins, who I stayed in touch with him forever. I mean, he really taught me everything about the game. And I worked at the country club where he was, doing court maintenance on the clay courts and taking lessons from him and working with his other players. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I mean, starting to hit with these other kids. Unlike the wall at my house, they missed occasionally. And I would get to win a point. And I played through the juniors. And it was one of those things that I just knew that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to hit tennis balls. And I coached. I played satellite tours. I finally just settled into coaching. Was coaching a Division III college team, and then later on a Division I team. I love that part of it. And then around 1983, I think, the USTA developed league tennis, which I thought was the greatest thing the USTA ever did, because it gave the average club player a league to play in. Before that, it was just once a week men's night. Guys from the club would all come out and play. With league tennis, it was your club played against another club. And you had a season of it, lasting probably 8 weeks, then a state championship, then a sectional championship. If you won those, you could go on to the national championship. So I got heavily involved in league tennis and became a verifier for national. I was on the what they call the National Oversight Group. And still coaching teams, the USTA League teams, as they played through their season and went on to championship play. But really it has always been just a passion for me. Hitting tennis balls and teaching people to hit. Kids that later on, some of them went on to get their college scholarships from it. Some of them went on to coaching tennis themselves and teaching other people. So I feel like it's just kind of, it's Fred Rawlings took me under his wing. And all the people that he coached, there's been, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people that I could connect back to him. And it just, it's always fun for me to see people get better. And they enjoy it. So if they're enjoying it and I'm helping them to get better at it, it's a great thing.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I know it's a wonderful feeling to kind of give back and watch somebody else develop the same passion for something that you've had for so long and so dearly. Next week, we actually showcase the start of season 1 of this podcast series called Building the Player from Foundation to Future. That will release next Wednesday, November 26th at 8 a.m. And so that whole series is about how do we get kids into sports and how do we make lifelong pursuits and passions to keeping these individuals healthy and active. So I'd like to go back because you seem to kind of have lived that in its entirety through what tennis was able to do for you. And so looking back at the beginning, you talked about what first drew you into tennis, right? That first match, and realizing that like, hey, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to hit tennis balls. So what I want to ask then, before tennis, right? Would you have considered yourself active, or did tennis spark something new in you?
Well, I was active. I wouldn't say I was focused on anything in particular. Tennis is what kicked in that focus. I think if I had been forced into it somehow, or not played other sports, I wouldn't have realized how much I really liked tennis.
Okay. And that's interesting. So you're saying that kind of having the ability to explore a little bit and the autonomy to make your own decision actually kind of helped push you further into the sport than if somebody had just shown up and been like, hey, you're going to play tennis. That's the only sport you're going to play. And we're going to make you really, really good at that.
Oh yeah. I think that is, one cause of where we see burnout in players. When I'll say I have kids and, hey, you're going to play tennis. When they even talk about other sports. And they end up burning out because it's all they've ever known or done. They don't know what other sports are like to play, if they would be more fun. And even some of the greatest players that have lived, recently retiring, they had an option. They could have gone into soccer professionally as well as they did tennis. Roger Federer was one that had a big soccer background. And I just read where he had retired and the man's net worth was just over $1 billion. But it wasn't about the money. He chose tennis because he preferred as opposed to the team aspect, the individual aspect. So with me, yes, having done other sports and realizing that tennis was what I really liked, it's what I did best. So I stayed with it. And I think that is so important with the kids today that they don't just lock into one sport, on day one and they don't do anything else, because all the sports have aspects to them that help you in whatever sport you're going to end up staying with.
All right. And that's always a big topic of discussion, right? The nurturing passion and preventing athlete burnout. And so to kind of paraphrase you here, just from my own understanding, is that like we've got to make sure that we continue to provide that opportunity, right? And allow kids to explore, to kind of help foster stronger, lifelong or long-term athletic passions, right?
Yes. They have to give room for other sports. Again, to try them, to see how they like them. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, then do something else. So it really does allow that. And I go back to soccer with especially the European players. They were all playing soccer before they hit their first tennis ball. And I think that was great because it helped them with footwork. I don't care how perfect your swing is to hit a tennis ball. If your body doesn't get you there in position to hit it, your swing is not going to do any good. And the only great player I can think of that wasn't a soccer player was Bjorn Borg. And he was a hockey player. He played hockey before he ever played tennis. So it's important. It's very important that kids experience other games, other sports. And let their individual skills show them the path they want to go.
Yeah, and then along with that, I've talked to Dr. Harrison a few times in length about athlete development, and one of the big things that he kept pulling up was what he called transferable skills, right? Which he accredits to kind of in the same realm that you're talking about, where like multi-sport discipline and being able to experience those various skill forms that take place in different athletics before we actually end up into a singular field of specialization, and how important those are from a coaching standpoint to have players that are like that. So when did you know you wanted to coach? And was it a smooth transition, or was it a role that you felt like you had to grow into?
I think working with Fred Rawlings, who said I stayed in touch with him all the time. He would be coaching us, the traveling group of players, and telling us what we needed to do and work like this. And those were things that I picked up on quicker than a lot of players. And I was trying to help them as they were winning all their matches, and I wasn't. And I think Fred saw in me maybe I didn't have the greatest playing skills of all the guys of that group, because a lot of them went on to college and into the ATP tour. And I seem to have, I think, fallen into him teaching me how to coach players as much as he was trying to develop my own game. So it kind of started around the age of 14, 15, 16, right in there. As we would come back from a state championship or a sectional championship, and I remember one of the players, one of the best ones of the group, was named Kevin Skelly, and we'd get back and Fred would pull me aside and ask me questions about how Kevin played. And I could say, well, you know, he's he keeps dropping his wrist on volleys. And it's causing him a lot of errors. He's got a great serve to come in behind, but then his wrist just collapses. And that really started me in coaching, although I was still playing. So for me, it was a smooth transition.
And so starting real young like that, right? 15, 16, 17, like you were saying, what was one thing that you fully believed at the time about coaching? You know, like right from day one, that like after a lifetime of coaching, you feel like you no longer believe?
That there was one way to hit the ball. And only one way. I don't believe that anymore. I haven't believed it for a long time, but at first, yes, I did. And now, you know, I would like to go back in time if I could and let people make the mistakes. Don't try to make them hit with that perfect textbook swing every time. they'll find their own groove.
Yeah, and I think that's really true just across any sport, right? Like there's a certain amount of mistake that has to occur in the development process.
I think it goes even further. It's life. If you're not making mistakes, you're just not trying. And you've got to let people make mistakes so they can learn.
Yeah, and I really agree with you on that one. Like you're spot on in my opinion. And you were talking about that is different, right? It's individualized for each person, and tennis especially is such an individual sport, but it's also a relational sport. So then how did you approach developing players beyond just their technical skills?
One thing that I asked my players, and I forced my assistant coaches in college to do the same. I never asked first, did you win or lose? Because that was not the most important thing. My question was always, how do you feel like you played? What did you do good? What did you do bad? And what did you feel like was your strongest weapon out there? And your weak part. And I would have my assistants, when they went up to the guys coming off the court, I said, do not ask them if they won or lost. I'll take care of that and posting the scores. All you want to know is how they play, how they feel like they played. And I try to stress to players from a long time ago, it's not whether you won or lost the game, it's how you played it. Because I won some matches, leaving thinking, oh my God, I played like I had some kind of mental problem out there, and I have lost some matches, and I felt okay because I played great. I just got beat by a better player.
Yeah, and that falls right in line too with legendary coach John Wooden from UCLA and his quote of, "You can outscore a team that's better than you, and you can be outscored by a team you played better than." And it's really easy to get wrapped up in results and wins and losses. But as you're saying, right, it's definitely a lot better to focus on not the byproduct, but the product itself, right? The effort that was given in that game, in that training session, in whatever it is that you were doing. So what do you think then is an important lesson for coaches to learn, like moving into this realm, so that they can start to craft the player outside of just technical and tactical?
I think the coach needs to take it on themselves, the win or the loss, and focus with the player on how they feel like they played the game. Have the player break it down to you. How did you serve? How do you think you hit ground strokes? How did you volley? How was your footwork? And I always found that they were pretty quick to say, Oh, yeah, well, I couldn't hit a backhand to save my life, or my serve. It just wasn't going in. And, okay, well, those are things that you as a coach can work on with that individual or with that team. If you ask the team a question like that, and take it on yourself to focus on wins and losses. Don't put that on the players.
Okay. And with the addition of, being an athlete, right, moving into that coaching role, and then finally kind of developing yourself as a teacher and an administrator with your work associated with the USTA and Southern Tennis as a league verifier. How do you feel that all of those roles work together to expand your view of the sport?
As I got into the league tennis, the verifying of players, the lowest level that you had, your entry level, was 2.5. And it went up from 2.5, 3.0, 3.5, 4.0, 4.5, up to 5.0. After 5.0, it was open. And some people would come out and they would be playing tennis for the first time. Adults, and they're out there for the first time playing, and they're saying, yeah, I'm a beginner. I'm a 2.5. And you watch him hit, and you go, no, you're not. You may never have played tennis before, but you played something. And you would start to think about these other sports. And, the footwork's awful good. Did you play basketball? And guys that play football were the toughest. Because if that guy was like 250 pounds in high school and was a lineman, he stood there and tried to keep people from getting the quarterback. Strong, not much movement, hit the ball too hard, and I kept thinking, do you believe if you hit it over the fence, it's a home run? What? That's not the point of this. But you get a wide receiver, and he's got that hand and eye coordination. He's fast, great footwork. Those two players are not the same. Even though they play the same sport, they're not starting at the same place. I remember one in particular, if you'll give me just a moment on him. I went to a national championship to work, to watch some of these players, and a guy was playing, and he was playing 2.5. And I watched him in a couple of matches, and I thought, why does he think he's a 2.5? So I asked him when he came off the court. I said, why did you sign up for 2.5? Well, I've never played tennis before. This is the first time. I said, you done something. What else did you play? Well, I played football. I said, okay, did you play in college? Yeah. Did you get a scholarship? Yeah. And after college, well, I played 7 years in the NFL. I said, and the position you played, he was a wide receiver. I said, you're far from being a beginner. You may have just begun to play tennis, but your athleticism has taken you far beyond that beginner level.
I guess it's like the old adage that a world-class athlete in one sport is pretty dang good in just about every sport.
Yes.
So you've lived kind of the entire arc, as we talked about, right? From young athlete into a coach, moving into a teacher role, and then being an administrator of the sport. So
yes.
What is one message that you want every young athlete listening to this podcast to really hear from you?
I used to tell the kids, if you play tennis, if you play golf, you can play those sports your whole life. There isn't any other sport in high school that you can do that with at that time. There weren't a lot of basketball leagues, except in large cities, for adults. And so I wanted them to get into something that they could do their whole life. They didn't have to be a professional at it. Just staying active. And nowadays, of course, soccer is one that they can pretty much play their whole life. There are adult soccer leagues growing up as quickly as, or actually quicker now than adult tennis leagues. And I think that's great. So I would like to see the people, again, I think you need to try out, all kinds of sports or different sports, not every sport out there, but decide what you do, what you like the best. And I did tend to push sports that people could play their whole life.
All right. And great advice. We love seeing lifelong purpose, lifelong activity. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for today. So I do want to thank you, Coach Phil, for coming on and taking your time to let me ask a few questions and pick your brain a little bit.
Thank you for asking. I'm happy to do it. And, I look forward. I've listened to, your first podcast, and I thought it was wonderful. I learned some things from that coach that I hadn't really thought about in tennis, but you can learn if you're coaching, if you listen to other coaches, you'll pick something up.
Yeah, and that's a big point. So I'll make sure to pass that along to Coach Brooks. So he's knowing that he's helping everybody out. He'll love that. For everybody else listening, thank you for listening to another episode of Coaching in the Shark Tank. I'm your host, Coach Eddie, and I want to challenge you guys to leave a comment, leave a review. Let us know what sports you guys are involved in and what other coaching advice you'd like to hear about in the future. And with that, I thank you all.